Solutions attorney, protecting people like you. The Word on Wealth team of financial experts is here to answer your questions and help preserve your family's financial future. Now, here's
Friday Live.
Friday Live-age. Welcome to the Word on Wealth, my friends. It's so good to have you along. Happy Friday. This is the day when we don't talk about money. We talk about wealth in other forms, as in with mental wealth and physical health and things like that. So that's what we're going to be.
Gary, if you're going to do it right, you might as just well have the champion of all things mental health when you're talking about it. That's the way I look at it.
Who do you think we should have?
Well, there's only one mental health champion that I know of, and she's been defending her title out there, helping others in the community. But I think we have Desi Carson on the show today to help us break it all down.
Desi, welcome to the show.
Hello. Hi. How y'all doing?
I'm doing great.
Better now that you're here.
I know, right? Like, it's like on Thursdays, I feel smarter by the end of the show because we have our financial guy on the show. And then on Fridays, when we have Desi on, I go, I'm going to feel healthier because I have my mental health champion on the phone.
Oh, it's very flattering. Thank you. But the work is your work, not my work. So you take the credit for that.
Wait a minute. No, I think she's dumping it back on us.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
That's right. She's going, just so you know, guys, disclaimer here. Anything that's said on this show,
your responsibility.
It's your responsibility.
No.
That's okay, Desi. We still love you. But I am going to ask you though, because inquiring minds need to know. It is February. So with because Noah and I have been talking about this quite a bit. It's like people make New Year's resolutions. And I had my a really good friend, Lisa Newman, on a couple weeks ago, because I said, I'm going to pull all the stops. I'm going to my people and I'm saying, help the world figure out what the heck to do with their life, because we have all these funny little New Year's resolution, and then in the summer, it's like beach body. Okay. So that means I have to eat healthy. But me, it's my age. It's like eat unhealthy and die sooner. So it's not like I don't care about a beach body. I don't care the fact that my skin has, vitiligo on it. I don't really care that I have blotches and splotches anymore. I just care about being healthy and trying to recover from, exercise and activity and being mentally healthy so I can, be kind to people and all that. So what we wanted to get you on the show to talk about is help us figure out a plan or ways that people can make this year better by, the resolution that they made, on January 1st, I'm going to do this. Some of those, I guess, statistically, some of those are done because now we're in February and they forgot. But I want something that's going to help people through the year, all year, and not just okay, December 31st, got that out of the way. Now let's move on. It's it seems like we need to kind of move on all the time, or help us kind of with that mindset, some pointers. What do we do here? Talk to us.
Yeah, it's a really interesting topic that you bring up. I think I have a little bit more of a unique perspective on New Year's resolutions. I tend not to make them at all. I am very anti-resolution sometimes.
It's okay to be anti. It's 2023.
Yeah.
As long as you're not flying a spy balloon over the United States accidentally, then we're cool.
No, yeah, none of that. But I do have to say more about our relationship with time and grace that we're giving ourselves to be able to do the things that we want to do and see the things in ourselves that we want to see. So that being said, we feel very comfortable having time-bound resolutions, in the beginning of the year, or like you said, the beach body or things like that. But I've been having a lot of conversations lately more about helping people release themselves from their own expectations and to navigate a little bit of ego death, letting go of these perceptions of ourselves and who we think that we are in order to actually step into more of self-acceptance and happiness. That, I think, is a more powerful resolution than any of the little steps that we can take, because we're operating and being okay with lost and being okay with failure and still finding self-acceptance and happiness within that, because that's what life is, right? That's what we do no matter what time of year, no matter what time of day. We have to deal with some stuff, then we have to pick ourselves back up. So getting more comfortable in that practice could be really powerful.
I can't type that fast. I'm going to have you repeat all that. No, you replay tape number 2, please.
Well, she's right, Gary. I mean,
Yep.
even me personally, I've dealt with stuff over the last year, and sometimes it seems like it doesn't let up. And the best thing that you can do, as Desi just mentioned, is be honest about it. I mean, don't hide it. Don't try and change it. Don't try and be somebody that you're not.
Mm-hmm.
Look at yourself in the mirror each and every day. Reset yourself. And are you going to have down times? Certainly, because we're all human, but you need to pick yourself up and be the best person you can be.
Fair enough.
And
Desi?
that can look totally different, right? On a day-to-day basis. So
oh yeah, it depends on your mood, who you're talking to, tasks for the day. Sometimes you need, as you said, Desi, so often your circle of trust that can lift you up and carry you along the journey that helps you with that.
I like where this is going.
right, exactly. Yeah.
So you started out, Desi, and this is really great. And this is exactly not what I expected, because I don't never know what to expect from you, other than if I bring up the term community of care, I know where you're going to go with that one, because that's my favorite term. But as far as you mentioned that we're comfortable with time-bound restrictions because it's almost like if you set a goal that's going to sunset, then whether you get there or not, it doesn't matter, because then after that certain period of time, you're not worried about it because it's not a goal anymore. If you didn't make it, you go, oh crap, I suck at that. And if you made it, you go, yes, I did it. But still, you're at the end of something, and we're fine with our time restrictions and things. I thought that was interesting. I mean, what immediately came to my mind, I know this is weird, but what immediately came to my mind was this is crazy, but there's a tax law, right? Congress passes a law and they go, this is going to be a big change, and people are going to hate this, but and we're going to fight over it. But then somebody goes, hey, you know what? Let's just say that it only lasts for 4 years. And if after 4 years, it just goes away and we go back to where we are today. So no harm, no foul after 4 years. And they go, we can live with that. We can change the laws, the tax laws, all these things, and we're going to change them. And I don't mean 4 years because of the administration, but actually it's 5 years. So, okay, so we're going to go all the way to December 31st, 2025. And after that, if we haven't decided to keep it, we're going to change everything back to where it was 10 years ago. That's literally the way laws are set. So I'm thinking, my gosh, we function like that all the time. And that we have these time, and I don't even know where you're going, but this is kind of what came into my mind. It's like, well, so if I said a thing, I'm saying, okay, by January 31st, I'm going to be absolutely committed. I'm going to eat no chocolate, no desserts ever for a whole month of January. And then I know that if I get to the end of January, my restriction's over. So I don't have to do that restriction anymore. If I did well, okay. If I didn't do well, that's too bad. But I like that. We love our time-bound restrictions. So what I really talked a lot through that. So I'm going to give you a lot more time to talk. Desi, I want you to go into a little bit more about this relationship with time and releasing ourselves from time restrictions. I kind of want to get some thoughts and clarity from you on what do you mean by like being released from time restrictions, because I know dealing with everyday life, but that's kind of where I want to go with this. You guys, you're listening to The Word on Wealth with Desi Carson. She's our favorite mental health professional. She's a mental health champion. She's a wonderful human being. She's wonderful to hug. She really knows her stuff. And I love the way she talks about this stuff. We're going to keep talking about it. Coming up next, we're going to talk about our relationship with time, because we're trying to get how do we get through the year and into the next year and kind of move through our life and be successful. To call us and be part of the show, it's 888-344-1170, 888-344-1170. Call and ask Desi a question.
You don't need to know everything.
Oh, look at that. You're a rock star.
Answers you can trust when you need them. Welcome to The Word on.
You want to have her on past the bottom of the hour?
You build, protect, and transfer everything you this broadcast outreach, The Word on Wealth, with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Call or click to request your free initial consultation or to talk with a member of the team. Call Gary at 855-500-TRUST. GQLaw.com.
Now on Feel Good Fridays, it's back to Gary Quackenbush.
And here we are on the air with Desi Carson. She is our mental health professional or mental health champion. She calls herself all kinds of things. We just call her Desi because she's incredible. So Desi doesn't get to be part of the conversation when Noah and I talk offline while you guys are listening to the commercials, but we're kind of bragging on Desi, thinking how cool she is because she speaks English to us and not super funky terms. So we really,
you hear a lot of mental health professionals, advocates, and they speak in long, drawn-out terminology. Desi just calls it like it is.
Yep, I like that. Desi, please help us with our relationship with time. And let's see. And then you mentioned releasing yourselves from time restrictions. I'm very interested to know where that comes from and how we kind of fit that into our lives and community.
Sure, absolutely. And what's interesting is I end up talking about this relationship with time a lot in the work that I do in the professionalism space and in the workplace culture space, because we are talking about people's work-life balance a lot of the time and the expectations that folks have in order to get tasks done. But that translates over into our personal lives as well. There's so much control that we place in the hands of the time that we're operating in. So we constantly feel like we never have enough time. Time is out of our hands. We can't accomplish the things that we want to accomplish. But if we really think about it,
wait.
Think about the
Okay,
moment,
too fast.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I got to stop you
Oh.
because that was important. Because I get
Okay.
this, our relationship with time. Sorry, I can't type that, so I have to interrupt you. I take notes all the time while you're talking. I have these big, long, copious notes. I'm not like I'm going to write a book because I'm not like your author, but anyway, or your publisher. But okay, so I get this. So what's happening is we basically place the control of our life in like our time schedule or our clock, and then because we've done that, we go, I just don't have control. I just, that's the time clock says this must be done. And so I therefore will do this, and I will ignore this thing that might be more important, but my time is so precious and so controlled that I don't have control of it. Is that where we are?
Yeah, I think it's very common for folks to feel anxiety or frustration or disappointment in feeling like they don't have control over their own time, especially as it relates to work. But that bleeds over into our personal lives as well. And so,
of course it does. Of course it is, because
right,
what do we do every day? I mean, the thing is, people think,
right.
I just think, I mean, I'm self-employed. I run a company. I've got, 6 or 7 people that work for me. I'm a little tiny person. But for me, when it was just me and a secretary, it was like, okay, this is easier. And then we added another one. It's just like, I have a lot of these things going on. But when I go home, you'd think, oh, he just goes home and relaxes. Well, I've got family. I've got grandkids. I've got kids. I've got church responsibilities. I've got charitable, things that I'm involved in. I'm in, it's just like there's all these things. So work, the time at work for me is almost like, it's almost easier because I have these certain time restraints that I know I have X amount of time to get X amount of things done. It's still difficult. But then in my own personal world, it's the same thing. It's like, I still have, it's almost more difficult to balance it because it's not just, these are my money production activities. These are my life production activities. So you're saying we place a lot of control, we give it to our time schedule, and then we almost hide behind that. Am I going in the right direction? Keep talking about it. This is wonderful.
Yeah, and it weighs us down. It wears us down mentally and emotionally, because if you think about, if you're in a constant state of not having control over the stimuli that are like affecting you and around you, that is exhausting. And if you think about like an animal trapped in a cage, you want to get out of that. you desperately want to get out of that when you don't have control or autonomy over the things that are near and dear to you and make up who you are. But what we also know is that there are moments in which we don't feel the presence of time as strongly, and that is when we're mindful in those moments. So that's why mindfulness practice tends to be so helpful, because we're taking back our control over our time by releasing our need for it to be controlled, if that makes sense.
Yes. Meditation, mindfulness, being present, that type of stuff, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And those practices, are really easy to continue on a day-to-day basis. But the radical move that we can make is like, let me look at where my time is being allocated and where can I take that back?
Okay. So, I told Nara, no, it's funny. I'm glad nobody's listening to this because I told Noah, I said, when Desi's on with me, I feel like I'm kind of like going, not, you don't do it to me, I do it to myself. It's like, I'm asking these questions because this stuff is really super important to me. Okay. So, in times of, you were trying to figure out like, where do we rob ourselves? I mean, what do you think about, like, sometimes you work really hard and you're good at, having lots of things done and all these irons in the fire and things going back and forth. And then it's like, I want to carve out time. I kind of want to play. I want to play, and I don't want to make it so that I'm playing, and the play I can justify because I'm exercising and sweating, or I'm playing, I can justify it because my play is I'm doing some research on how to do my next business move. But I just sometimes just kind of want to go, screw this. I just want to literally let my mind flow, and I want to build Legos. But Gary has a really big problem with that because he says, see, I go third person, it's easier. It's like, but wait a minute, you shouldn't be playing with Legos because you have a lot of other things to do. There's a checkbook to balance. There's people to hire. There's things to think about. There's other people that are on your list of people to communicate and contact and call, and you should be calling and working church work, volunteer work, office work, and you should just do it all the time because no matter what, I will never get done what I have to get done. So I just work, and serve and all that. But it's like, I need time to play, but I feel like I don't have control of enough time. It seems like I'm not being the boss of my time. I'm letting it boss me.
Yeah, and who likes that feeling, right? No one likes that feeling of feeling like someone else is
Can't say screw this, I bleeped it out.
control of how we're living our own lives. And what you even said in your description of your time just now, I think you used the term should maybe about 3 times. And as you know, like everything that we get caught up on with feeling like the things that we should be doing with our time and that should make up who we are, those are the things that can sometimes cause us the most stress, because where is that should coming from? Where are those expectations coming from?
Yeah, it's guilt.
Were those expectations created by or for me as an individual? Probably not. And so that's where the leeway can come in. Like, let's take a second to think, where are these should phrases coming from? And where in my time am I self-imposing my own prison bars, so to speak?
So you're saying I should play with Legos?
I love including play in our day-to-day. I think it's
just say
so
yes.
important.
Just say yes. I need permission from my therapist.
Play with your Legos. Yes.
Thank
play
you.
with your Legos.
Thank you. See, the advantage, okay, my advantage is because I have grandchildren, is that when I'm with them, I play all the time. And I go, excuse me, I'm leaving early today. I have to go and spend time with my grandchildren. And it's really awesome. But I know this is like, I told you, this is like secret therapy. But then when I'm not with my grandkids, it is super hard to kind of go, okay, I really need to play. And so I don't. With my grandkids, I do, because I have an excuse, because I'm actually doing something else important. I'm spending time with their grandchildren and building relationships. I'm also screwing around and having a great time. And I don't give a crud about anything else in the world except what I'm doing. And it's fun. And they're going, Grandpa, oh, I'm sorry. Was I ignoring you? I'm sorry. I'm playing with Legos with you. So I don't know. I just think it's very, It's so I've been thinking about this a lot, you can tell. So okay, so we're talking about, so where's the shoulding come from? Oh, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. Then we have to look back and go, okay, where is that coming from? Is that like a guilt restriction? Is that I'm trying to do, because sometimes what is it where I'm basically saying I have this badge of honor, and that is I work extra hours and I work at night, and I'm so, I get kind of, I give myself kudos because I work really hard. And it almost seems like the shoulding is that I'm kind of, I don't know, I guess you kind of guilt yourself. I guilt myself into things like I should do this, I should do that. And then I could tell people, well, yeah, look, I had to work super hard and I worked 14 hours a day. And how many hours did you work? And I used to do a lot more than I do now. But anyway, oh boy, you're doing a good job with
And
me. You're making me talk.
It's okay, but changing, the phrasing from should to I want to, or I don't want to.
Mhm.
And that's okay too. And allowing space for yourself to determine what it is that you want to do versus it helps us narrow down the actual things that we like have to do. Because if we separate it into want to do, have to do, the should do is like its own
2 minutes.
Okay.
that can often cause us a lot of stress.
That makes sense. That makes sense. That makes total sense. And I think it almost seems like if you're by yourself, it's almost easier to kind of just be on your own function. But when you're around other people, then because we have a lot of hierarchical stuff. Like, if I'm the owner of the company, if it's my thing, then I am the one that's, the responsible one. And so then you kind of have this different mindset, I think. And it seems difficult to kind of release from that and say, you know what, I'm getting better at it. But I think that's kind of this thing where I just go, you know what, I'm going to release myself from that. And the way I do it is I started saying, well, I don't care. And it's not true. I don't not care. It's just that it's easier for me. And I see others doing it too. It's like, you just say, hey, would it be okay if I did this? What about that? And I say, I don't care. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. Well, it does matter to me. And I do care. But what I'm trying to do is release permission for somebody to do something else to control some of my time. But I use the term, I don't care, as if I didn't. So anyway, wow. I know Desi's going, okay, Gary, put the pillow under your head so you don't stress your neck while you're laying on this couch here. So what I would love to do. So Desi is going to say, you're going to save us for another segment. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. Because you really should. You really should. And I'm setting that boundary for you.
I'm here for you.
But
I'm here for you.
You're there for me, and I'm going to be super transparent and authentic. And when we come back, I do like some of those buzzwords. The reason they exist is because they work. So let's not hear from Gary so much. Let's have you. We're going to talk about our relationship with time and some ideas that we're going to get from Desi on what we can do to kind of establish a better relationship with time. And I would love to have a couple of things that are like specific, like try this and try this, maybe a couple of things we could stick into our day that would be helpful for us to kind of mentally and emotionally get through our days and our time and enjoy and find joy. We could do that. Coming up next, we'll be talking to Desi about those things. 888-344-1170. If you want to be part of the show and ask Desi a question, 888-344-1170 on the Word on Wealth.
You've got questions. We've got answers. This is the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Gary's here to give you peace of mind with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary to build, protect, and transfer your wealth. 855-500-TRUST. GQlaw.com.
Welcome to the Word on Wealth, everyone. This is Gary Quackenbush and Desi Carson and Noah Dingley, and we are here on our Fridays, which we do every Friday, to talk about how to do things mental health wise and emotionally, rather than talk about money and dollar signs and all that kind of stuff. So we don't usually, you don't get this, half-hour report saying, we get the report that says the Dow Jones Industrial Average is up 134 points and the S&P is down 36 points. And you guys should all be, running away, scared, running and screaming in terror because the inflation is up around 9%. We don't get something that says, mental health concerns have gone up 26% today, and people are starting to freak out. The stress levels of people, in fact, their variable heart rate numbers overnight have increased by 6% because of something that's going on because of the Chinese air balloon. So we don't get those reports. I know Apple's working on that, so is Google, but we don't get them. So we have to get people like Desi on this show to help us with our mental and emotional health. And I said I wouldn't talk, and I did it again. Desi is talking to us about our relationship with time. It's our work-life balance. It's our personal life balance. We're putting so much control in our time schedules that we're kind of getting caged in by our own restrictions of time. And yet it doesn't give us the freedom we need. And what she has promised, actually it was a one-sided promise. I told her I really wanted her to do this and she didn't say no. That's what happens when you're a lawyer. And she's going to give us some pointers and help us kind of figure out some things on the life balance and some pointers, maybe some things we can actually put into play. And I'm getting ready to type. Take it away, Desi.
Amazing. Well, a couple of things come to mind for thinking about our time, thinking about how we can infuse a little bit more joy into our space and our relationship with time. And the first thing that comes to mind is play once a day. Find something to play with, find something to do that's playful, whether it's the smallest thing, like on maybe playing a game on your phone or playing Legos with your grandkids, or just going outside and throwing a leaf up in the air. But having those moments helps us forget the time pressure at that time. So
you know what I always do, Desi, with that? I'm a big fan of strategy games, and I play the online version of Risk, and it's turn-based. So you don't have to sit there and play the whole game. And I have a network of guys that I've played this game with over the years, and I sit there at the end of the night. It's the last thing I do before I go to bed, and it helps relax me.
Yeah, because you freed yourself from the control that you have and from the control that the stress had on you in that moment that would be imposed by something else you might have been doing with your time. If we think about children, they don't think about time. They don't think about things that they have to get to. They're there just having a great time, absorbing the world, and staying curious about the things that can happen to them in any given moment. And that helps us forget that we are so time bound by being open to anything that can happen to us in a curious, positive, playful way in any given moment. We just have to lift up our heads and open our eyes enough to be able to see those moments and fit those moments into our normal day to day. So that's one aspect I would throw out there. And the other one, especially if you have trouble with finding time in your day for yourself, is as much as you can in advance, schedule time without time. And I know that sounds really contradictory, but sometimes I block off a whole section in my calendar and I purposely set an alarm for when let's say I have another responsibility I have to do at that afterwards. But for that period of time, I'm not looking at the time. I'm not looking at the clock. I'm not counting down to when the next thing is. I'm freeing myself from those constraints. And what happens is creativity. What happens is joy. What happens is freedom. What happens is stillness and peace, which we don't often find in our day-to-day.
I love it. I'm subscribing to that. I'm subscribing to the Desi app. I am. There's got to be an app for this. Got to be an app for this so that I can schedule my time around that. Okay, summarizing. Okay, so we got the two things. So play once a day. I like that. And then while I was gonna, I have this new app. It's called Habits, and it is like a goal setting. And basically, you put down what is this once a week, once a day, once a month, 3 times a week, whatever goals. And then you click it off when you, because I like checklists and stuff like that. And the one thing I have on here is hobby at least 3 times a week. And I've been doing that. And then I realized I haven't checked off my chart in the last 5 days. So, but it seems like a lot of this is being okay with giving yourself permission to, and actually requiring yourself to kind of, I guess, unplug, if you will. And I think it's harder nowadays. It seems like when I was a little kid, I mean, we would get home from school and it was like, talk about being unplugged. We lived on a 1/4 acre. We had a pool, we had a pony, we had a bicycle track. You know, it was like, I'd get home from school. We didn't have backpacks. I don't know what I did. Threw my books on the floor, whatever. And then we'd go ride bikes. We'd play in the yard. We'd dig holes. We'd dig tunnels, all this stuff. And it was like, my mom couldn't stop us, you know, from doing that stuff. So as an adult, we need to do the same thing, right? We don't we, you know, because if you're saying play once a day, schedule time without time, blocking things like that out, we need to be okay with that and just say, this is just my thing. This is what I do. It's part of my life. It is important to me, and just schedule it in, because if you don't, your day is just going to slip away.
And whatever it is, and being okay with the inevitable sense of whatever you're sacrificing or lost in that moment, because you're actually not losing anything. You're not losing any part of yourself. You're not a bad person. You're not any less than if you were slightly less productive today rather than yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't take away from who you are. But sometimes we rely so much on the things that we schedule in our day and the things that we do to make up our sense of self, that when any part of that is sacrificed or left or not scheduled, then we almost don't know what to do with ourselves and don't know how to define ourselves during that moment of time.
Desi, what would you say? I would almost say, I mean, it's great. And I love people that are driven and get so much accomplished, even when they have very, very packed schedules. I know somebody here at the station, they got 4 jobs. They maintain their relationship with their kids. I have a high amount of respect for the guy. But what would you say? I almost feel like you're losing something if you don't make time for yourself in those down moments. It's almost like you're losing a part of yourself because you're not allowing yourself to be the authentic you, just not so busy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, not so busy, and not so much needing the validation of the things that we do to validate who we are as a person. Because if you
2 minutes,
how some people, especially at the end of their life or when they're older, some of the things that they say as far as giving advice are spend more time doing the things that you love, spend more time with the people that you love, work a little less. Not saying that there's a privilege associated with being able to work less, and I understand that. But the things that we do have control over, whether it's 15 minutes or 15 hours, that could make a difference between us being happy that day, having joy that day, or not feeling any of that at all and feeling empty and hollow.
I like that. Okay. So what we're going to do, folks, is we're going to put this time together. And I want to say that this applies whether you're working an 8-hour day job, a part-time job, a half-day job, like 12 hours a day job, or whether you're retired, because these are the type of things your day will be filled with. Whatever you have the same amount of time as everyone else, and you have the mental capacity that you do, and you have these opportunities. And Desi, I love that you're saying we need to take the time to do the things we need to do. And one of the things we need to do is get ourselves in a really good mental space so that we can function and be wonderful contributing human beings and contributors to our society. And that's what you've been talking about for the last 45 minutes. I love that, playing, scheduling time to where we can do the things that we've always wanted to do. Give yourself permission to find, enjoyment in funny things, and then find joy in everything that you do. Desi, I really appreciate you being on the show today. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. And we'll be talking to you next time. I hope you have a great, great rest of your week. And we'll talk to you soon. And you're coming up next on the Word on Wealth. Desi's out. We're going to finish up when we come back right here on the Word on Wealth. Thanks, Desi.
You don't need to know everything. You just need to know where to find answers you can trust when you need them. Welcome to the Word on Well with Gary Quackenbush. We are here to help you build, protect, and transfer everything you've worked hard for with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary and the team at gqlaw.com, 855-500-TRUST.
Gary, our listeners are asking about trust disputes and whether or not they'll actually get the inheritance they're expecting.
I think that's a scary thing for most people because they feel like, if I ask my successor trustee, hey, where's my inheritance? You kind of feel like, oh my gosh, I'm being like rude or whatever, inconsiderate. But I'm telling you, if time goes on, if it's been like 60 days, 90 days, 120 days, that's too long to have heard nothing. You're supposed to hear fairly soon, like within a couple of months after someone's passed, you should be hearing from that successor trustee. And if you're not, I think there's an issue we need to address. So it's not like we're going to go screaming in there, filing lawsuits. We kind of use gentle nudges like, hey, do you know what you're doing? Successor trustee, we kind of want to help you do your job, and we help beneficiaries kind of get things straightened out.
Call or click to request your free initial consultation. gqlaw.com, 855-500-TRUST, gqlaw.com.
If you have 2 minutes, here's an easy way to advance the gospel and bless missionaries worldwide today. If you own a vehicle you no longer need, donate it to christianswhocare.org. You've heard about Christians Who Care Ministries car donation program since 2005 here on KPRZ KCBQ. The charity was born right here in San Diego East County. Your donation of virtually any vehicle, car, truck, or van, running or not, is 100% tax deductible. It's easy to donate. Pastor Paul and his team at Christians Who Care Ministries are ready to accept your donation or answer any questions. Call toll-free at 888-488-5808 or use their simple online donation form at christianswhocare.org. They'll call within 24 hours to arrange your free vehicle pickup. You'll receive your tax-deductible receipt. christianswhocare.org is an IRS-approved 501c3 nonprofit ministry. Call 888-488-5808 to learn more.
The Answer San Diego has gone.
You're live.
Happy Friday, my friends. We just had a great opportunity to talk to Desi Carson. She's just really good about helping us. And we just saw, we're in February. So we've already been through a few set your New Year's resolution. Hopefully it was something that's going to keep you going long term. And I really enjoyed what she had to say. I want to talk about a couple things that are pretty important. Been talking to my wife lately about being a successor trustee, and you talk about a difficult job. As an estate planning attorney, one of the things we're doing a lot of is when we do an estate plan and somebody puts together their living trust, they have to decide on who would be their successor trustee. And a lot of us parents, people, whoever doing their estate plan, a lot of us think, well, I'm just going to put my kids in age order, put the oldest first and, in age order. when people ask me what they should do, I say a lot of people do age order. Some people do responsibility order. Some people don't want their kids to be involved at all, and they want to, have their own brother or a cousin or a professional or something take care of the trust administration. And the thing that gets really frustrating is that most people don't understand estate planning, and I get that. Okay, it makes sense for, if you're not in the industry, you have nothing to do with the industry, it makes sense that the terms are confusing when we say trustor and grantor and settlor. They're all the same term. They're just different terms for they're different names for the same person. So it's easy to get confused. And when you're talking about transitioning property from when a person dies to now the beneficiary or the recipient on the transfer on death designation or the co-owner of the property, the transfers in theory and in concept, we can see that and say, yeah, my dad died, I inherit money. I have 2 siblings, so there's 3 of us, and dad died and it goes to the 3 of us. Okay, fine, easy pleasy. But where the challenge is really coming up, and I just talked to this very recently with my wife, is she's acting as a successor trustee now for a family member and dealing with institutions, some of the biggest financial institutions, quite frankly, on the planet. And the people that she's dealing with don't have any idea what they're talking about. And they all have different opinions. And I just get this frustrating feeling that, if you're the successor trustee of your parents' trust and you go into the bank and they say, yes, let's let you talk to John, he's the manager of the estate accounts or whatever. And then they do the best they can. I get that. They do the best they can. But what is a little tiresome is when you get, oh, this is the way it works, ma'am, sir. This is the way it works. And they're wrong. And they're so insistent that they're right. That frustrates me to no end. So what ended up happening is they said at the first bank, okay, so this is a revocable trust. Yeah, I see that. It's a family trust, living trust. So it's revocable. Blah, blah, blah. Here's the tax ID number. We'll just stick that in this Social Security block here and blah, blah, blah. Open the account. There you go. Here's the account. Thank you, ma'am, for coming into the bank. Okay, now when there's an issue of, money's being transferred, money's being paid out, there's a new account being opened, there's a transition, there's a business. The new bank, which is the same bank, just different branch, says, hey, wait a minute. Is this trust revocable? Or is it irrevocable? Well, I'm always wanting to know what their context is. Well, the answer is irrevocable. Well, the first branch person said it was revocable because as far as he knew, living trusts are revocable and family trusts are revocable because they're not irrevocable. They're just revocable trusts. Limited knowledge, limited understanding, limited competence. The fact is, living trusts, when the owner of the living trust dies, the trust is irrevocable. That's the very nature of a living trust. For example, my trust, the Gary and Cheryl Quackenbush Family Trust, right now it is a revocable trust. Okay, even if the trust said Gary and Cheryl Quackenbush revocable trust, if Gary and Cheryl Quackenbush are both dead, it is still called, this is the confusing part, it is still called the Gary and Cheryl Quackenbush Revocable Trust, but it is irrevocable. So it doesn't change the name. It doesn't now, the name of the trust is now not the Gary and Cheryl Quackenbush Irrevocable Trust. It was titled originally Gary and Cheryl Quackenbush Revocable Trust. So it's still called that because that's just like saying Gary and Cheryl Quackenbush Pink Trust. It's still pink, but it is now not changeable. Irrevocable simply means it cannot be deleted, revoked, amended, changed, altered by anyone, period. Because the person who created it, the trustor, grantor, settlor, trust maker, they're all the same exact person, just with different ways to name them. They're dead. It cannot be changed. That's the whole nature of living trusts. They're living while you're alive, but we don't call them dead trusts now. there's still a living trust, but it has now become irrevocable. So it's sad that the first bank, the person that understood, quote, understood and deals with estates all the time, called it a revocable trust, because it's not. It's an irrevocable trust because it became irrevocable when grandpa died. And I know it's irrevocable because the trust has its own tax identification number, because we can't use the social security number because grandpa's dead. So we have to use a different ID number because it is now no longer legal to use or refer to grandpa's social security number because that number died with him. So we have to get a new one from the IRS, and it's now called an EIN, employer identification number. There's no employees. It's still called an EIN or a taxpayer identification number. It doesn't matter. That's the taxpayer identification number of the trust. That number now is used to prepare a tax return for the trust, open a bank account for the trust, open an investment account for the trust. It's to hire a professional for the trust. It's all under the new tax ID number. Okay, so then down the road, go to the bank. The bank says, wait a minute, this is not a revocable trust. This trust is irrevocable. And it says here on this account form that it is a revocable trust. Revocable trusts are only for family trusts. So it's like, oh my gosh, do people not get this? So what happens, you guys, is you create a trust. It's your living trust, family trust. And when you pass away, it's got the same name, the same title, but it is now irrevocable. And it doesn't change the name or the title. It just changes the nature of the trust. It is now irrevocable. Okay. It cannot be changed. That trust now, we refer to it sometimes as the administrative trust. It's not the trust, the living trust while you were alive. It is now the administrative trust. What does that mean? The administrative trust has all the assets, and now it is waiting to administer, distribute, hand out, gift, give away, pay the property, the money, the assets, the wealth that's in that trust. So the
Gary, what
trust is
if
now
the
we're dealing-
person who is setting up the trust, person obviously who is, it's their life's legacy, can they put verbiage in the trust that said, hey, even after I pass away, I give authority to X person to make changes if so desired?
No, that would defeat the purpose of the trust. But there is an exception to that, and that is in the trust, we authorize or give power to the successor trustee to alter the terms of the trust if necessary for tax purposes. That's all. The successor trustee, you cannot leave an instruction that says, hey, successor trustee, you just hand out the money wherever you want. Give it to whoever you want. You really can't do that because there's no, who's the beneficiary? You don't know. It's not enforceable. I mean, you could say things like that, but as far as enforcing it, it's going to be considered a gift to the trustee. The trustee is going to be, they're going to have inherited it basically because the trustor, the settlor, the person is saying, hey, I'm just giving it to my trustee and I trust them to do with it what I would do. I have people say that all the time. And so what it's doing is you're having this term that says, I want all my money to go to my trustee person, same person as my trustee. If my trustee is Bob, now I want everything to go to Bob and he's going to decide what to do with the property. Everything goes to Bob and it's up to him. And if he decides, you know what, it is in the best interest of the trustor for me to have it because I'm financially responsible and I needed it anyway. So it just causes a huge, big mess because they're going to say, that's not what mom wanted. So as far as amendability, changeability, we leave limited power to amend it if there's a tax consequence, like if we have to amend it because there's something funky about a new tax law, then we can change the terminology as related to taxation. But that's about it. That's a great question, Noah. See, the nice thing is you've been talking to me on the air for, I don't know, about 16 years now, and you understand this stuff, which is really cool. It just takes a while. It's a
little side perk to, producing the show. And I know that's something that I had not heard of, the question that I asked. And so I was pretty sure the answer was no.
Yeah.
But always good to clarify.
Well, because people think that that's possible.
1 minute.
People they think it's possible and it's just not. So those are some of the things that we need to watch out for. So that's great motivation, inspiration to keep listening to the Word on Wealth. Monday, we're going to have Jim Robeson, the Medicare answer guy. So all of your questions about Medicare, and insurance and all that. I've got Jim with me on the air at 2:00 on these two stations. And Jim is awesome. You all know him, the Medicare answer guy. So you'll be able to talk to Jim on the air. We're right now, and there's open enrollment period, and there's some of that stuff going on now. If you're turning 65 within the next 90 days or this year, we better talk to Jim, and you might want to call during the show. So Jim Robeson, the Medicare answer guy, will be on Monday. Then we've got estate planning on Tuesday. We got a super awesome real estate agent, real estate broker coming in on Wednesday. Anthony Wright, financials on Thursday. And Friday, we've got a super special show, an author. All right.
Tell a friend about the word on
Any more contact with Chad?
solutions attorney Gary.